Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. Today's episode is presented by Golf Dojo. Your space, your time, your game. Bring your game to Golf Dojo, Western New York's best indoor golf experience. Visit mygolfdojo.com. It is a new week, which means on Monday here, as usual, I'm joined by my buddy from down there in Queens, New York, Joe from Queens. What's going on, man? How you doing? Didn't have you last week, so it's been actually 2 weeks since I had
you bailed on us.
I got
sick allegedly. Even though I had my theories that you were getting scared to do this topic we're about to do today, and I was like, maybe he just didn't want to do it because he gave me notes day of like, we can't do this, we can't do that. We're expanding the team to 7 or 6 or 5, but I don't want to. Yeah,
that is funny you say that though. So for what Joe is referring to is today we're going to do something different here on Talking Buffalo. We're a couple of weeks away from camp. You pretty much said you're not going to come on the show during training camp anyway. But we're going to kind of take a little bit of a left turn from some Bills talk today. And we're going to do a draft. The seed for this was presented by you actually a couple of weeks ago on the show. We were talking a little bit of sports media stuff, which you and I do on this show from time to time. But anyway, today we're going to have our all-time Buffalo sports media draft. We're going to each draft 6 of our favorite all-time Buffalo sports media figures. The one rule, the only kind of rule that we sort of came up with was no broadcasters. Like if it's shit like Rick Jenneret, who probably would be the top pick for either of us, but he's not really a Buffalo sports media figure. At least I don't consider him one. He was a Buffalo Sabres broadcaster and the greatest to ever do it. Go ahead.
You said broadcasters, but can I do an analyst or no on the Sabres?
You can. Let's just make this the non-Rick Jenneret list of favorite all-time Buffalo sports media figures.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Because that's gonna tweak. That's gonna tweak because I do have some people I want on this list.
Okay.
From the teams that I have that I gonna have high. So just making sure. No RJ though. Okay, no RJ.
No Rick Jenneret. He's obviously would probably, I can't speak for you. He would obviously be my number one choice all-time Buffalo sports media, but I really don't consider him media. He was a broadcaster, and again, the greatest to ever do it here in Buffalo for sure.
Well, let me ask you this, because now we're gonna be in the weeds a little bit here.
Here comes the rabbit holes. Go ahead.
No, well, here's the thing. What about Van Miller? Because Van Miller technically was a Channel 4 broadcaster. Correct. Can we use him or no?
Sure, Murph too. Murph worked at Channel 7 and Channel 4.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So basically, the way I look at it is basically RJ is off the table.
Yes.
Dan Dunleavy's off the table.
Duffers. Ted Darling.
Duffers is off the table or no?
No, actually, he's a pregame host. He does a TV show every day, kind of like Chris Brown and Steve Tasker do. So we'll make him eligible.
Okay,
he
so
can
he's
be on the list. No Ted Darling. No Rick Jenneret. I feel like that's it. I don't know. I'm sure Jim Lorenz. Jim Lorenz, Rob Ray.
I still think it's stupid because what's going to happen? People are going to listen and they're going to yell at us and go, "Why isn't RJ on there?" They're not going to remember the beginning.
I'll make it clear. We're making it clear right now. If you're watching the show, you're listening to the show, it's clear.
Fine,
Social media, I will, I'll put up a tweet saying this is like the non-RJ list. And by the way, a couple of weeks ago, let me defend myself here. I did feel like shit, and that's why we didn't record an episode. Because I was afraid to record.
You were getting scared.
Dude. Yeah. That was the first time probably in 2024 where I didn't have a show, by the way. Monday through Friday. This was an everyday show. Didn't have one on Monday, felt under weather. But anyway, whatever. I'm back. I feel well. You're here with me.
You got a Homer Bills hat on. Really objective for a media draft. You got a Bills hat on. Good job.
I consider this a Buffalo hat more than a Bills hat.
Standing.
It doesn't say Bills.
It's a Bills hat, dude. Everyone sees it on here. Everyone's watching. It's a borderline. It's on the helmet, dude. When they do the throwback. What are you talking about? Oh my goodness.
I want to say this, dude. This absolutely has the ability to become a very contentious episode because you have two extremes right now. Joe, who is going to, I am positive, and I have no idea who you're even considering on your list, but you are going to 100% be critical of at least some of my choices.
Of course.
You're the critical guy with the media.
And you
I am,
can't wait
in
to
your
go
words,
golf dojo with them later. I know.
I am the panderer according to Joe. I'm the panderer. I'm the one who's nice and wants to be friends with everybody and all that fun stuff. So this might make for a very contentious episode. I want to tell everyone out there watching and listening to, we'd love to hear your takes, your comments, who you would have on your team. So make sure you can comment on the YouTube video or tweet at us, whatever way you want to communicate. We're going to do 6-person teams. So
6.
Yeah, we'll go with 6.
It's a lot.
We'll kind of have
a lot. It's a lot. I mean,
man.
I was like a Mount Rushmore kind of guy, like 4, and then Pat Springs. We're doing 6. I'm like, geez, dude.
I could have probably did 10. I got a lot of pandering, bro. I got a lot of pandering.
I would have fired like the 9 and 8 person. They would be covering the Bandits.
I don't even think you like 10 people in the history of Buffalo sports media. So
I can get to 10. I can get to 10.
Well, you're going to get to 6. You're going to get to 6. I'm going to get to 6. And maybe afterwards we'll discuss a handful of honorable mentions. But anyway, that's how we're rolling here on today's episode. Go ahead.
Before we get into the draft, I just wanted to do a little foreplay before we get into that about this. What do you look for in a media person? Like, what is it like on the Pat Moran scale? Like, what do you want? Do you want hot takes?
Good question.
Good voice, good writing, a panderer like you. Like, what do you want?
I would say 2 things. 2 things that matter most. Likability, I think matters. It's got to be somebody that I like. I think
likability.
Somebody that I like, somebody that I enjoy, and also somebody that I feel like I'm missing out on if I don't read them or watch them or listen to them. That matters. The career matters, how long they've been doing it. Maybe in some cases, something unique that they bring to the table that other people, their peers, don't. So there's lots of different things to go by. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, there's some media people out there that they do a good job and I just don't like them. So they're not going to be. How can you call somebody one of your favorites if you don't like them? You know what I'm saying? What's your criteria? Let's hear from your end. I'm sure at least some of what I said you would agree with.
I would say in terms of the likability scale, I would say respectful. Not a panderer, which we know that there's a lot of those out there, sadly. I definitely want someone who's objective.
Sure.
You can be a fan of the team. I still think you can be a fan of the team and cover them. But you can't be a homer or one of those guys. I can't stand that. Don't want that near this. You will not be drafted. If you've been taking a lot of pictures at a place that's green with holes and outfit changes and things I wouldn't wear, you're not on this list. I can't mention what that is because of sponsorship into things, but I won't say.
No, it's just not in the first 5 seconds of the episode.
Okay, well, if you take it a golf selfie within the last week, you're not on the list. Sorry. Okay, so I know it's going to eliminate half the population of Buffalo media right now that's currently there. I kid. I can maybe handle some of that. Not really.
You don't handle that well.
If you're right,
go ahead.
If you're right a lot of times. And you do good work, you're not lazy. You're not looking for the cheap pop. You have sources. I think breaking stories is going to be a big thing for me on here because I do find that to be, and I know like nowadays that doesn't really happen all that much, but I think back in our day, like when we were younger in the 90s, early 2000s, that was a big deal. Like you had to do that.
Can we agree on something though? Before you proceed, we both agree and understand that the sports media landscape, much to your chagrin, has changed. Like media is different for the most part now than it was, say, 25 years ago. There's not really any denying that. For the most part.
How it's presented, sure. Like I don't like a lot of the media people on Bill's X. I think it's changed a lot. The local media on Bill's X, or not Bill's X. I keep saying Bill's X, but it is mostly Bill's X, like who cover the Bills. And I think there's a lot of different things that it wouldn't fly for me.
Sure.
But I understand, like, hey, you know what? 10, 15 years ago, no one cared about Drew Bledsoe's handshakes with Eric Moulds. Now Josh Allen does handshakes with a player, and it's going to be all over Bill's X by the Bills Beat guys are going to cover that. Not my jam, but you want some impressions, fine. I don't know how that's going to be a big deal. It's not going to really result in any cash to your network, to your station. But whatever. Hey, you got to do something, I guess, while you're covering this. But I think I want people who end up being right a lot of times when it comes to covering the Bills or Sabres. Someone who breaks news, who has credentials, respectful. As I said, you could be a little bit of a jerk, but I don't need you quote tweeting people to hell every day or using your straw man and stuff like, the generic, like some fans feel that blah, 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 which is like, okay, that's like 3 people on your replies out of 1,000 that feel that way, but you're just trying to win an argument, you're just trying to win an argument. So you make up an argument, which I hate. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Happens all the time by a lot of people. It happens everywhere. So it's not just a Buffalo thing. It's, put it on ESPN, the omnibus they, the evil they, these people think this. And it's like, well, how many people really think that? So, but that's it. And I definitely feel like my list will probably be more nostalgic maybe than yours.
Maybe not.
Because it's a tough market to really assess who makes your top 6.
Sure.
Because it's changed, and it's changed not for the better in terms of it's shrunk a little bit. There's not as much coverage, or there is coverage, but there's not coverage. It's weird. Like the TV people, there's not much there anymore. You watch a 3-minute newscast, it's 3 minutes, you're out. Back in our day when we were younger, you had extended sports on Sunday. You had like the sports shows afterwards. You had a lot more of that. You also had Empire Sports back in the day, which was, 6 hours of original content every day, basically, that you could watch, which you don't have now. We know about the fallback of the Buffalo News, the print media, things like that. It's not if you were to sit here and go like Jerry Sullivan or, Larry Felser, like they were way more popular 20 years ago than whoever you have right now at the Buffalo News. It's just because of the land. It's not because it's like, oh, they stink or what, this other person's better. It's just because this print media just isn't as strong as it used to be. I mean, I think everyone will admit that in terms of that. That's my wife's arm in the frame right there. So there she is. She's putting her cricket up.
I agree with pretty much every single thing you said. And the last thing I want to add too is that it goes without saying, but your opinions ain't necessarily mine, and mine sure aren't necessarily yours. So I just want to make sure that is out there as well.
Don't worry, everyone. You'll still be invited to Pat's Chicken Wing Festival, okay? I won't if you're there, probably. So don't worry. These are all the mean opinions are mine. Please go on Pat's Wing tour whenever it comes to a local venue by you, and he invites you there. Don't worry, I won't be there.
Let's get going. You know what? One thing we haven't done, and by the way, I want to say this too. I have no earthly idea who you might be drafting. You have no idea who I might be drafting. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I kind of got a list, but I don't got like a draft board, like an NFL draft list. This isn't like a mock draft where I got my rankings. I kind of got a list in front of me of 10 of maybe 15 names that I could pull from, and whatever I feel in that moment, that's probably who I will ultimately pull the trigger on. But you don't know who I'm taking. I don't know who you're taking. So this is new in real time to both of us. And now that I think about it, we never really talked. So we're going to do the snake style, 6 picks each. Who's going to draft first? How do you want to do it? Do you want to do like captain on the deck says shoot or something?
Do you want to do rock, paper, scissors?
Sure.
Yeah, we can do it. Okay, if you're watching on video, good for you. If you're listening, sorry. We'll tell
Winner gets her choice too.
Okay, so we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then shoot. Okay, so let's go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot. I got you, and you were so delayed too. I had to think you were so. That was like the worst thing. Like I couldn't think
in real time. All right, so you won the toss.
I won the toss. I had paper. So, but here's the thing. I'm gonna defer. I want you to go first.
Oh, you want me to go first? Damn.
I want you to go first. I want you to go
two.
first because I have my draft. I have my first 3 lined up a little bit.
All right. Well, the Talking Buffalo 2024 favorite all-time Buffalo sports media draft has commenced, and I am on the clock now with the first overall pick. Man, I really wanted to have my next 2, but fair is fair. I lost. All right. So this for me, I'll say this. It came down to 2 people. All right. And I'm not going to say who the other one is in hopes that maybe you're not taking this person with 2 or 3, but it came down to 1 of 2 people for me personally. And I'm going to go with, wish I had a drum roll here. I should have had a drum roll effect here on the sound. I am going to go with, by the way, are you writing these down? Because I won't be. All right.
I usually do write them down. Well, thank God.
I know, but I'm not doing that now.
Okay.
I'm going to go, maybe I will as you're talking. I'm going to go with, you know what? I'm going to go with Howard Simon. He's going to be my first overall pick. And I'm going to give you a handful of reasons. Okay. Number 1.
That's a shocker. I mean, that's a shocker.
I got a handful of reasons. Number 1.
He was on your podcast before.
Of course, he was on my podcast a couple times, including one live from Imperial Pizza. But no, that's not why. And again, this is a long-term thing. And in some cases, I will have some recency bias, but it's not one of them. I will say this. All the things that I kind of spoke on earlier that I look for in my favorites, likability. Howard Simon was very likable. He was a serious person at times, but he never took himself too serious on the air at WGR. Very self-deprecating, not afraid to make fun of himself. I like that about him. I liked that he didn't rarely, if ever, kind of made the caller feel less than the host because they might have had a dumb take or a stupid question where there's other people on the air, or if you ask a dumb question, you're going to get run, and you're going to kind of get embarrassed. Howard was never like that. Smart, good sports mind, good voice. I enjoy listening to him on the radio in the morning, driving to work. And he was there for a very long time. So he has a longevity as well. So longevity, likability, serious, but not taking himself too serious. Make fun of yourself. Older dude. Just again, he never made the callers feel like idiots, even when they were idiots. So tough call, not an easy one, but I'm gonna go with Howard Simon. And I could tell when I made that pick, there was some shock in real time on the video side going through your face. You clearly didn't.
I didn't think you were going to do him that early.
Big Howard guy, man. He made radio better. Not that it sucks without him, but he made radio better. So that's my pick, Howard Simon.
Howard's like the longevity thing, absolutely. I mean, before he went to GR, he had already like a 20-year career almost. Like He was at BEN on the radio, then he
Empire
went
Sports.
Then he was at Empire. That's where I was raised on him. Is that that's a lot of what I watched was him on Empire, because I was a TV guy growing up more than I was a radio or print guy.
He had a cheesiness. I'm talking about past stats. Well, he is retired, but he also had a cheesiness and a corniness to him that I actually enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, he was very engaging. I don't know about how much knowledge, because it's I feel like you're drafting him that high because he's of likability, which is the first thing you said. How much did he know, really about the sports? I mean, he did talk a lot about different sports. I'll give him that. Not basketball. No one really talked about basketball in that town, but he did like baseball. He liked the Mets. He liked obviously the Sabres and Bills. He was around for a while. He was around for a while, and when he had his rants, it would be hilarious because he never really did too many rants. And when he did a rant, he kind of went all over and was like, "Oh my god!" This is random for him. He definitely had a lot of dad jokes. I think that kind of was my feel a little bit for him.
I like that. And you're going to listen. You're on the air 3 hours a day or more. Personality matters a ton.
Yeah, I'll share.
I always enjoy listening to him.
I'll share this. I'm going to share with you a Howard Simon story for me. So, I was at Buffalo State in the broadcasting field. That's where I got my degree in. I still work in television today, but I took a class called Interviewing 300. This is my senior year. Interviewing 300 was basically they showed you how to interview, and one of our final projects was we had to interview someone on camera. This is like the college station. We had to interview them on camera, where you had to interview someone that had like cachet. Like it couldn't be like I'm not going to interview my dad. You had to interview someone that was somewhat famous. Like it could be like the president of upstate. It could be the town commissioner, whatever, the sergeant of the police department or whatever. So I wanted to interview someone in sports because I was at that time, I was like between thinking of doing sports production or doing music. I don't know. I was all over the place.
Yeah.
So I went to one of my professors. His name was Tom McRae. He was the radio professor. He used to be on the radio. He used to be on Oldies 104. Had a really great voice. Tall dude. He taught radio. And I went to him and I was like, hey, I want to interview someone in sports. Do you have any connections? And he goes, well, I know Howard Simon. And I was like, great. Now he gets Howard Simon on the phone in his office. So he calls Howard Simon up, and the way you were supposed to book it, this is how my professor wanted it, was like you were supposed to go to that person to go, hey, do you want to do this interview with me? So he gave me the phone. I get on the phone with Howard and I go, hey, Howard, this is Joe. And I wanted to know if I can interview you on BSTV. That was what the Buff State TV show campus was called. And when I said that, you have to come down, I said basically you have to come down here for me to interview you. And like Tom McRae's eyes kind of got a little bit like widened, like he was a little bit like taken back that he had to come down there. And then like after I got off the phone with him, he's like, yeah, I'll come down there. I remember my professor was kind of like, oh, I didn't know he was supposed to come down here to do the interview. I thought it was going to be a phone interview. And I was like, no, he has to come down here. And I felt really bad about it. I always remember that. Like I felt really terrible about it. And I was like 21 at the time, but he came down. So I interviewed him for like, it was like a 12-minute segment. I interviewed him about his career, a little bit like how you normally would do it. And afterwards, I had talked to him for a good like half hour, 45 minutes about the industry. And he was very nice. He was very cool. And, you know, I enjoyed meeting him, and he was always, you know, he was a Buff State guy, and it was very, very nice. You know, it was kind of my little story of like, I interviewed him like you did once for college. And he was very nice because I said to him, I'm really sorry you had to come down here. I didn't mean to. Like, he's like, oh, I didn't care. I like coming down here or whatever. So,
and look, he wasn't an encyclopedia of sports knowledge compared to maybe some other people out there, but he knew plenty enough to be able to hold a conversation. And like I said, lots of reasons, but most of all, I just enjoyed listening to him. All right. So anyway, you're on the clock now. And you're going to have your next two.
Gotcha. Yes. So I'm old school. I'm going for two guys who are in the Hall of Fame right now. I'm going with Larry Felser and Jim Kelly.
Okay.
So I'm going with the Buffalo News. He's going to be an oldie. Like both of these guys, you have to be in our age bracket in the 40s, maybe 30s to remember them. Larry Felser was the football guy. He's basically the football columnist. I think maybe he might have been a reporter too. He might have been done both. I think he was more of a columnist. Yeah. Back in he covered the Bills from like their first game, until like he was still doing a column in the 2000s, and he was on Empire. He did TV. He was on Empire Sports. Kind of a hard ass, you know, which is what I want, but very well respected. Like they named the press box
the most respected, maybe the most respected media figure ever here in Buffalo.
Yeah,
ever.
He broke a lot of news.
Sure.
I mean, they named the Bills press like one of the press things is named after him, and you know he would always get inside info from like Ralph, everything. He had a lot of sources, old school, like he was there, and you had to respect his football acumen, and I did. I thought he did well when he was on debate shows like on Empire, because he used to be on Pros and Cons. Like he was great. I enjoyed him. Jim Kelly, he was their hockey guy. And you go ask some of the old school, like go ask Mike Hinton. I know everyone hates him probably, except you and I probably for the most part. No, I'm just kidding, Mike. But like go ask him about him and like what he meant to like the staff there and how he wrote. And he was also on Empire as well. He was on one of the best. Sure. He was on Sharpshooters, which was this radio show with Mike Shope and Mike Robitaille, which was awesome. It was great radio. I loved it. But I'll just say this, like Jim Kelly the biggest thing was he got beat up by Dominic Hasek basically in like 1996, 97, got his shirt ripped off. Big ass controversy. So Hasek was suspended for 3 games. And even during his coverage of him after the fact, I always felt he was pretty fair about him. And when I always remember this, they did like I think it was like the 30th or something like the anniversary team of the Sabres. I forgot what it was, but basically it was maybe in the early 2000s, and they were like, who was the best Sabre of all time? And he voted for Hasek when it was, I remember because they wrote about this in the paper. Like there was like a two-way tie between him and Perro, and he voted for Hasek. This is a guy who almost got beat up by Hasek. And, people nowadays are pissed off when Stefan Diggs doesn't want to talk, and they hold it against him, and he didn't hold it against him. Like he was like, yeah, he's the best player of all time for the Sabres in Sabres history. So I'm going print guys, writers back to back. This is why I asked you if you're going to put this to a vote on Twitter, and I hope you don't.
Which we're not. We're not going to do that. We discussed that because it's not a popular. I wanted us to make our picks based on who we truly want and on our squad, so to speak, and not necessarily, I'm going to put this guy up there because he's going to get votes. Because I can tell you right now, if we put this to a poll and you have Larry Felser and Jim Kelly on there, that under 30, maybe 35 crowd, it's not going to resonate as much with them because a lot of them, if they're not historians of media here in Buffalo, they're not even going to know who the hell these people are. Larry Felser especially is the most respected sports media person I've ever seen in my life in Buffalo for sure. So
and they were good. I mean, there's this one Twitter handle I follow. It's like Buffalo Sports History, and it's a great handle. They post legit articles, from in 30 years ago today, whatever happened on this day. And they'll show articles, and there's like Larry Felser, you'll read his stuff, and I'll read it, and I'll be like, this is great. Like, this is hard edge. Like, there ain't no BS, no pandering. Like, I dig this. So I dig it.
I agree. All right. So I got the next two. My first one, which was actually one of my first two when I told you I was going back and forth between 1 and 2. He falls into my lap on my draft board anyway. And that's a current media member. It's Tim Graham. Tim Graham's number 2 on my list. A multitude of reasons. He is one of the 2, I'll say, best long form feature writers that I've ever seen in Buffalo for sure. So he writes incredible stories. He tells unique stories. He breaks plenty of news in a market where, and not just in Buffalo, but national people break most news nowadays. Tim still breaks a relatively pretty good amount of news locally here in Buffalo. A great writer. I think he's actually a really good podcaster too. I love his podcast, and he touches on topics that very few other podcasts will touch on. Controversial topics. He's not afraid to tackle them. There's a kind of almost like curmudgeon. I use that word with you a lot, but almost like a curmudgeon personality with Tim that I love. And for me personally, because this ultimately at the end of the day is about our favorites, Tim has been an ally of mine for a very, very long time. I mean, going back to my Buffalo Sports Daily blog, there it is, the pandering part. It is, but I'm going to say it. Tim helped me when I had Buffalo Sports Daily. He would put links to some of my good stuff on it. He was with ESPN.com at the time.
Once every year, you had a good thing, maybe.
So he would put his columns in there. He would put my stuff in there, help me really help get that identity out. When I started this podcast, he's one of 2 people that I talked to before the show even first aired to get him to be my guest, which he was on my second episode. And he's been around for a very long time. He's covered the Sabres. He's covered the Bills. Now he's with The Athletic, a feature writer, still does some Bills and Sabres stuff. So a multitude of reasons for Tim to be my first pick. And then my second pick here, 3rd overall, I mentioned him on the show a couple weeks ago. I'm going to go back. Rick Azar is going to be my 3rd pick. He's at Channel 7. I think he started, I looked it up, 1958. He was all the way there to 1989, which was when I was graduating high school. Incredibly, it's been that long now. But he was the first sportscaster that I remember growing up, and kind of was a guy that maybe growing up when I was a kid that I kind of wanted to be like. Like I used to have my own little fake sports broadcast upstairs in my room, and I'd write stuff out on a card, and didn't have video cameras in those days.
It's where the pandering started.
That's where the pandering started. But I would read scripts, I'd write stuff, and I would pretend I was Patrick Moran from Channel 7 Sports and doing shows. So, that'll be one of many reasons why Rick Azar, who, by the way, he's an icon here in this market as well. So, Tim Graham, Rick Azar. I'll put you on the clock for your next two, and after your next two, then we'll take a quick break. So there you go. You got two coming.
Wait, can I talk about Tim Graham and Rick
Yeah,
Azar?
absolutely. Talk about both of them.
Geez, you're like trying to hurry me up. All right, like, well,
all right, that's fair. Go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Graham, I definitely had in my list of like I was gonna go for him. Same reasons you laid out. He breaks news. He has a lot of different ways to take you on his ride, if you want to call it that, in terms of long form or breaking news. He's a good podcaster. I'm not John. His social media has gotten better. He used to be really annoying on social media like a decade ago. He quote tweeted everyone to hell on a daily basis. It was kind of annoying after a while. And I was like,
he likes a good beef, man. That's like
sometimes it's fine, but like every day he was doing it every day. It got old. I still always remember him and Matthew Collar almost had like the biggest media crimes.
Yeah.
Twitter beef of all time. It was amazing. I wish we could have those beefs again. We don't, sadly.
Yeah, Tim had a couple good media beefs that were.
Oh yes, he definitely has.
Fun to follow, but yeah.
But I think he does a great job, like in everything you've assessed here. He does get a little bit. I don't know. I wasn't thrilled with how he covered Diggs a little bit. I'm going back to Diggs. Yes, sorry. It's you pandering my Diggs is like you can't go a podcast without me sticking up for Diggs or you pandering to someone. But yeah, Diggs, he definitely, I felt it was a little bit harsh on him, and I felt some of it was a little bit like his dealings with him. Maybe that's kind of how I read the lines, but I'm not gonna like knock him for that much. Just a little bit of that. I think sometimes reporters, if they have a back and forth with an athlete, I think it does jade their viewpoint of them a little bit.
Sure.
And he's not the worst, but I thought it affected it a little bit. But he does have sources. He breaks stuff. And yeah, I got no beef with that. Rick Azar. So Rick Azar is definitely a little bit before my time because he retired, I think, around 90, 91, 89. And I was 9 years old then. But yeah, I get it. There's nothing really I can say, but obviously he was there for a long time.
Over 20 years.
I don't know how much. The thing for me is he was there for 20 years, but he really didn't cover like what stuff was great that he covered. The Bills were, for the most part, not very good during that time frame. You had OJ. And there's no
before we were born, but I mean they did win their 2 AFL championships. He was at Channel 7.
But
I don't know that because I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, but still, it wasn't like he covered the Bills in the 90s when that was the heyday.
Sure, he retired. He retired literally right before.
Right, and the Sabres for the most part, like they had the 70s, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. The 80s, they weren't very good in the 80s. They were just always losing in the first round. I don't know if that hurts him or helps him, but I can see why. Like he was there for 500 years, so you definitely, So I got no beef with those selections. So okay,
good.
Cool.
Right, what do you got? All right, so you got two, and then we'll take a break.
So this is an audible because I was confused before the podcast because I thought we couldn't draft any Bills or Sabres people at all, but you're saying we can.
Before you pull the trigger, don't even do it. No, we're gonna make. I don't necessarily think it's an audible. I just want to make clarification. If the only thing they do is a broadcast and nothing else, like Rick Jenneret, then I don't think they should be able to be on a list.
So they could do like a post game show or like appearances on like the morning show, whatever. Okay, perfect. All right, good. Yep. All right, number 3, Mike Robitaille. I did an audible on him.
And where you were going.
I
got a quick story about him too when you're done. Go ahead.
Sure. I thought that guy growing up was awesome. You couldn't Hockey Hotline would still at this day be the best like TV show in that market's history. It was awesome. It was must see TV. I couldn't wait for the Sabres game to end so I can watch him and Brian Blessing shoot the shit. And this was to me at a time when he had different ownership groups there. Like they had the Regis's kind of was who they had when that whole thing was going on with Empire. He was very fair. He was critical of the players. It wasn't this bullshit like Chris Brown or Steve Tasker sticking up for every freaking player on the planet, during one Bills lie. This was them like they would torch people. Like it was not like they were a little bit. They didn't torch ownership as much as they could have, but like they torched like the players. I've always remember like when Sava Kozlov got here, he was like, I'll drive Sava Kozlov to the airport to get out of here. Like after like the first like 2 games he was here, like stuff he would never say. He was a hard ass. I enjoyed his stuff. I loved him. I thought he kind of lost a little bit of his fastball, maybe around 2008 when I this is my opinion. I think because Galasano took over and that guy had thin skin, and that's when a lot of the propaganda started coming out of the teams, you know, where you couldn't really be as harsh. And I just felt he wasn't as like he used to be on. He was on intermissions and he had Roby Radio, which was on GR. It wasn't as good. It just wasn't. Like, I'm being honest. I thought it was. But from like 89, which I think is when he got there, maybe 88, until like 2005, 6, he was awesome. And I love that I have him on the team with Jim Kelly, because that's the sharpshooters when they were on it together, when they talked about it. And I thought they did a fantastic job together. Okay. So I'm very happy that we decided to put him in. Roby was awesome. He's on there. Okay, so number 4. This is going to be tough for me. I may need a minute. I mean, you may need to go to break on this one. I gotta figure this out, because now it's destroyed my draft. No,
talk yourself through it, man. Now we're taking you inside the draft room. Right
yeah, now. It's tough for me because like
the process of making the pick.
Yeah, like it's tough because I want to get some TV people on here, and I don't like you. Obviously, you don't. I'm not putting John Murphy on here. Sorry, no way. I'm gonna put Bulldog on here. Yeah, I'm gonna put Bulldog. I knew you wanted to go after him. He was on your pan. He's on your. He's on.
All right, listen. I want to show you something. You can only see this if you're on the video side. Okay, in Scribble, you could it's barely even recognizable. But so far, just so I can read it with my own, I've been writing down the picks. Right. Yeah. You can see right there on mine, the top. You can see it on the bottom right of the first half of it. It says Bulldog. I did not think you were picking him. I knew that was going to be my next pick coming off the break, and I was going to take Bulldog. He was going to be my next pick. But now I got to scratch him off the list because you just fucking drafted him.
No, sorry, dude. I mean, I wanted to get someone on the radio. He was definitely, because I try to assess the draft board by looking at each genre. Like, okay, like the print people, I need these guys. The radio one is tough because the radio, there's not much of a transition in radio. It's the same hosts from 20 years ago at WGR almost. I mean, I know DiBiase replaced Howard, but it's basically the same host. And it's very hard for me to like, okay, who do I like? Like, it's just kind of like you have your guys there and there's not much wiggle room to have a deeper draft, I guess. But I like Bulldog in terms of, look, he's a fan. He will always say that. He's not a journalist. I respect that. Even though I do huff and puff on this podcast about people, should be more journalistic with it. But he is objective. And that's what I dig. Like, and he does have his great rants when he loses it with the team. I think he's someone that doesn't get controlled by like the PR people for either team. He's been around for a long time. He
worked at a pizzeria when he first started in the business.
Yeah,
we all worked at WBN back in the day.
Yeah, we all, you and I and him have that in common. We both worked at pizzerias. But I think he has a lot of football acumen. He can recall a lot of things. He's definitely kind of a historical figure in a way, because he can recall stuff from like the 90s and 80s. And he had a really good take a couple like a month ago when OJ died. Like, he had a long like soliloquy about it, a little bit about how he died and just kind of like how he remembered him as a kid, because he was a fan of his and his dad, and like, kind of he speaks for fans. Like, a lot of people try to come out and be like, I'm a fan like you and I want to speak for you, and you can tell it's kind of fake. I feel like he really does a good job of that.
Sure.
And like he's very honest with himself too. And he likes craft beer, it seems like. I don't know. He does golf a lot though. I'm not going to use that again. I'm not going to use that against him. But he seems like a good dude. He's been around. He's not my list.
It's a great pick. I just showed you evidence. I was going to pick him next. Quick little Roby thing for the break.
Sure.
I liked him too. So back in the day, I'm talking 2003, 2004. Not to sound really old, but this was way before social media. And for the most part, it was kind of sort of before. I don't want to say it was before the internet. It wasn't before the internet, but it was definitely before social media. It was before blogs, even before blogs blew up and got popular. I had a neighborhood print publication, and it was called Buffalo. I don't remember what it was even called anymore. Anyway, I did an interview with Mike Robitaille, and I'll never forget it. He actually took the time to call me back afterwards, leave a voicemail because I didn't answer. I had an actual little small office at the time, and he left a very friendly, thankful message telling me that I did it right and I represented him well in the story and the interview that I had with him. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was really cool that somebody of his notoriety compared to nobody like me, he took the time to call me and let me know that I did a good job discussing him and doing an interview with him. All right. Anyway, you kind of ran with me.
He went to my elementary school once to talk to kids about not doing drugs when I was like 8 years old. And he gave out autographed pucks to people who answered Sabres trivia question. I remember, this is kind of funny. The kids where I was saying I was like 8 years old were angry because he kept asking people 70s questions. And none of us were like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's 1988. Like, we don't know the 70s, dude. Like, we're 8 years old. And it was, and no one got it, but teachers got it. So they got their freaking free puck. Anyways, go ahead.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. Come back. I'm a little bit rattled over you swiping out Bulldog in front of me. We'll see if I can recover from that. All right, we are back. And by the way, the graphic for this episode, I got a graphic of Howard Simon, and Bulldog was on there. I really was planning on getting both of them, but I'm on the clock here.
You just tipped your draft board. Once when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's going with those guys.
I'm going to continue. Said I'm going to go with what might be a very controversial pick. Now, when I say favorite, it's somebody, again, whether I want to read, watch, listen to, it's somebody that it makes me want to consume whatever it is that they're doing. For that reason, I'm going with Coach Chuck Dickerson. Oh. That is my next pick. His talk show was must listen. Okay. Was he a troll? Yes. Did he hate Marv Levy? Yes. Lots of things. And we could probably have a whole podcast. We kind of talked about him a little bit before in the past about some of the shit that he has said on his show. But what I do know, again, when you're one of my favorites, that means I want to listen to you. I feel like I'm missing out if I don't listen to you. And when he was on the air, I felt like I was missing out if I didn't listen. I called in a couple times. Some of my buddies would call in, try to rile him up on purpose with some terrible takes that we would do intentionally. And he would take the bait every time. Very crazy, emotional, on the air, must listen to. So I can't have a favorite all-time media list and not include the coach, Chuck Dickerson. So that's one. This is really hard. This is getting to the point now where this is getting really hard.
He's going between. He's got to pick between his friends, guys. Everyone knows this. I can tell.
This is no. Because this person's not my friend, actually. In fact, in a landscape,
you can't be doing who I think.
It's not John Worrell.
Okay, I was gonna say, whoa. I was gonna be like, are you sick?
I know that sounds like a John Worrell slight. It's not, but John Worrell is not gonna be on my list. That's not being mean. I'm just saying he's not gonna be on my list. But in a market full of pandering, having so many media people on, almost everybody from the Buffalo sports media has been on this show at some point over the last 6.5 years. One person who hasn't, I've never asked him, never reached out to him. He's never reached out to me, but he has been around for a long time. Probably the most respected writer on the beat. It's Mark Gaughan for the Buffalo News. He has been an amazing reporter and writer for a very long time. And I actually respect the fact that he is, I want to use the right word to describe him, from what I know about him, aloof. Maybe aloof is the right word. He's not a dick to nobody. Like, he's respected, liked just fine, but kind of aloof. Doesn't have a group. Doesn't roll with a posse of other sports media people. Like, I know.
Wait, you're saying he's aloof?
I think he's a little bit aloof from what I understand. Aloof. That's not a negative.
That's a negative. Your aloof means that's a negative, dude. Go look up.
What do you think aloof mean? What does aloof mean to you?
Like you're dumb. Hold on, I'm googling. Like you're dumb. Like you're kind of like you're not there. Like you're kind
aloof,
of like
or maybe a
hold on 1 second. I'm aloof. You're talking aloof, meaning okay.
Yeah.
Not friendly or forthcoming, cool and distance.
All right. Well,
like if you want to say like
dumb.
like aloof is, I would say okay. I thought it was kind of more dumb, but if you want to just say he's not,
you're dumb for staying called for accusing me of that. Man.
Well, I just thought aloof is not like it doesn't like it just said unfriendly. Like I don't think
let me walk that back. If that is a term that you think is using a negative way, because I'm not trying to be negative, I'm saying that he's not part of any.
He won't be in the golf bro picks. Okay, yes. Sure.
But, and I kind of respect the fact, I mean, the Buffalo News kind of has a podcast. Nobody knows about it because they do an absolute shit job of promoting it. You know, they do. I don't even know what the hell the thing's called on the Buffalo News website. But
Play Action or something it's called. I'm subscribed to it, but I never listened to it. But yeah,
awful marketing and promotion. Not a bad show. Just, but my point was this. I kind of respect the fact, when you ever see Mark Gaughan on, I don't know, name it. Locked On Bills. When you ever see him on Shout, when you ever see him on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo, you don't. He doesn't do these podcast circuits. You know what I'm saying? He does only Buffalo News stuff. And my point was this. I respect that about him. And he's just been around forever. And he's an elite writer. I mean, he is the definition of kind of an old school beat reporter. And he does it as well as anybody has that I know of here in Buffalo. So for that reason, I'm going to go with that. So
yeah,
Chuck Dickerson, Mark Gaughan. And again, if I use the term aloof, it was not meant in a negative connotation.
Okay. All right. So a couple things. Let's go to Dickerson. So we talked about Dickerson when he passed away like a month and change ago. We talked about him.
Mm-hmm.
He was only a host for about a decade. I think it was like 10 years he was on here.
Sure.
I always felt like it was the stereotype of what talk radio was in the 90s, of like yelling at people, screaming at them, hanging up on them. There is no nuance. It's all either you hate this or you love this. There is no in between. He was a dick to his callers. There were things he got like it definitely was that like that they hate listen at times where you wanted to listen to him after a game because you wanted to.
Absolutely.
Like you wanted, when the Bills sucked, you wanted to hear it and be like, I want to vent and I need this guy to vent through him. Even though you thought maybe at times I thought he was too brash, and he was wrong a few different times. I remember he hated Aaron Schobel once in like the preseason when he was a rookie. I remember listening to him and he's like, this Schobel guy doesn't look good. Get him out of here. And it's like, dude, he ended up playing for like 10 years. And, you know, and there were things he hated Flutie. My God, he despised Doug Flutie, wanted him to die. And he loved Rob Johnson, and he turned on Rob Johnson like 2 seconds after he became the starter in 2001. He got angry because he was in a hot tub picture. I remember that. It was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, he definitely, but the thing was, he ended up losing in the ratings. You know, I don't know if you know this, but like when NSA was going against him, that was Shope. When Shope was on the afternoon at 3:00, NSA was beating him, you know, and they were beating him pretty handily. And, you know, I think people were turned off by him, but also he didn't know hockey. He didn't know shit about hockey. Like he would have like, I remember he used to have, God, who did he have on? The guy with the mullet, Barry Melrose. He used to have a segment on him like every week. They paid for him to be on, but he never really knew hockey. He hated Hasek. I remember he despised Dominic Hasek, but I would have stayed clear of him. I was not picking him on my list. He was not on my board, but I know you like opinions. That's why I'm on this podcast. Thank God.
I do. I like opinions. And you said hate.
Even if they're wrong. But
I hate listen. I hate keep. I don't follow you on Twitter, but I hate keep up with your tweets.
Oh God.
Just to see what's going on. I kind of hate listened a lot to Coach Chuck Dickerson. But the point was he made me want to listen. So to me, you can't be a favorite. If I don't want to listen to you, then you're not one of my favorites. And he was. Right. So anyway, all right, you got
Mark
your
on.
He's going to be. Oh, go ahead.
I gotta Mark on a little bit, and then we'll hurry. Mark on, I agree. Like, definitely, he's been around forever. He used to run a chat on the Buffalo News when the Buffalo News used to do chats. I was always in those chats, and he would always answer. He had a very good historical mind, and I love that. I love when somebody can recall things from years past. I thought he kind of lost a little momentum because he left the beat to do the UB stuff, and then he came back years later, and
Yeah.
I kind of never see his stuff. Like I always see Jay Skursky's stuff getting promoted and Calvin Fitzgerald, like, and he kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like it's kind of, I don't want to say it's bloated, that department for the football side, but it's kind of like everyone kind of sounds a little bit like they're all like the beat guys a little bit for the football side of it. And it's kind of
Right. I get it.
it feels a little bit muddled where I need someone to have like, yeah, you could be a hybrid, but like there's no hot take guy and it's kind of like, I feel like he kind of gets lost a little bit between those two that I just mentioned and so on and so forth. But yeah, very respectful. His brother, Bob Gone, used to be a radio guy on GR back in the day. He used to hosted in the 90s and 2000s, got 10 a.m. show, and he was in the morning show with Bulldog. Actually, then he got let go. He was actually my professor, his brother, at Buff State. He did talk radio there. I don't know if he still does that, but he was a good professor. But
he's been
anyways,
the president of the Pro Football Writers Association for many times. He's been a Hall of Fame elector. So I mean, I'm leaving out. There's a lot of accolades
sure,
that I left out as well. He's deserving.
He's been there for a while. All right, cool. So I gotta talk this through now. So
you got 2 more picks here.
Okay, so I don't have go ahead.
Go ahead. While you're thinking, I was going to say that might be one that I don't want to say I waver from later on, because I absolutely would have Mark Gone on my team of best Buffalo sports media people ever, but this is supposed to be favorites, and we'll see down the road how I feel about having them among my 4 or 5 favorites as opposed to saying the best. So just want to put that out there. This is supposed to be favorites. But anyway, go ahead. You got 2 left.
Yeah, I got 2 left. I don't have a. Okay, so I got Felser, I got Kelly, I got Roby, I got Bulldog. Got a lot of radio stuff in here, some print stuff. TV, I don't like. I have like the hybrid TV guys. So I have Larry Felser, Jim Kelly. Like, they did TV here and there. Roby did TV primarily. Bulldog did not. I don't know, like, where the TV thing's very hard to me. I want to put a TV person on there, but there's no one that I'm like, man, this guy was awesome to listen to. Like, I wasn't a giant Ed Kilgore fan. I thought he was kind of a homer. Like I said, John Murphy's not on this list at all. I probably would have put him on there if he didn't go to the Bills and do One Bills Live for like a decade and he was a shill. Sorry, John. And no, you're not listening, but I'm gonna go with Adam Bonini. I'm gonna put him on this list.
Okay.
Look, he's been there. He was in. I mean, he's kind of out now, but he had been there from like 95 to currently. He's been there for 30 years. He was always a good journalist. Anytime he was at a press conference, he was asking tough ass questions. And there were times like I would listen to a conference call and I would be like, whoa, like and you could tell like there's a dude there that's not asking like the how do you feel bullshit. Like he was there, he came in there. I thought he was like, I wish I could recall. There was like one presser, might have been like Terry Pagula was there. It was one of the few times he talked where he was not pulling bullshit. Like, oh, hey, what's going on? Like, how do you feel about this? Like he was like asking stuff. I was like, about damn time. And there was other stuff. I always felt he did a good job. And obviously the landscape has completely changed for TV wise, but I want to get a TV guy on there, and I liked him the most. I know he may not be everyone's, like I said, like he was a sports director for like maybe like the last I think decade, whereas Kilgore was there for a while, then Kilgore finally left and Adam took the reins. But I'm going with him just to get. I just need a TV guy, and I need a broadcaster, television person in there. So the next couple ones.
Well, next one.
I know.
You're down to your final pick.
I know. I'm debating what I want to go with here. Okay, so I think I have I got football. I got good hockey, which you don't really have hockey aside from Howard Simon. You may have to go to. I'm just gonna be a micromanager and tell you should go find a hockey person because you don't got a lot of hockey there.
Nah.
But you're not a hockey. You listen to Tone Pucks. That's all your hockey you need.
All I need. High out Jeff Skinner per Tone Pucks. That's all I need.
What am I gonna do here? I have 2 people that I'm thinking of here. I'm thinking Vic Carucci which he's been around. You don't tell me because obviously I don't like I'm just working this out. I have Vic Carucci I'm thinking about. He has been there forever. He did break a lot of news. He did work for the NFL once. I don't like that. Like he went to go be a writer for the NFL.
Him, though? See again.
No, you know what? There were things I respected his work. There were things like I felt sometimes he was a bit of a homer on, and he writes.
I'm just reminding you, like I said with Mark Gone, this is like your favorites. We're not necessarily saying the best because the best might not always be the favorite. For an example, my favorite basketball teams, the New York Knicks, and until this year or the last 2 years, they've sucked for a long time.
Sure.
If they're not the best team, they're my favorite. So that's all I'm saying. So make this last pick wisely.
Okay, I will make this wisely, but like I'm still talking it out. Can I talk it out,
That's
buddy?
Fair.
We're only at 57 minutes. Usually we're like an hour and 10. All right.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm hurrying. Okay. I might go back to GR maybe. Because I do feel like as of now, like GR is probably the most popular mainstream entity in that town. At least I think so. Maybe Athletic is close to that, but GR definitely, I think, just it's free. People can listen to it. Where other stuff you got to pay a subscription to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna go with Jeremy White. I'm gonna go with him.
Okay,
and I think he is a guy who, like, he's been there for 20 years.
Sure.
I used to not be able to stand him for a long time. Probably during the Drury, like the Gallisano years, I didn't really care for him all that much because I thought he was a bit of a homer and he always stuck up for the Sabres. I always felt he buried Drury on the way out, and I wasn't happy about that. But whatever. He is a guy who did. I don't care what anyone says. He sold the town on the tank because he was like full-fledged, like would not die. He died on that hill. Did not care, even though to this day, I think. It kind of worked and it kind of didn't, depending on what side of the aisle you were on. Like he had a lot of absolutes, but he did sell that thing like very, very much in terms of like he sold it. That kid, he's my age now. He sold it, and people bought into that very much. So that I think deserves some credit to that.
Sure.
He's on the wide receiver train, which. We want offensive of doom. So I'm gonna put that in there as a brownie point in terms of he agrees with stuff I think about the Bills sometimes. But yeah, I'm going with Jeremy White. I'm gonna go with him. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Jeremy White's a great pick. I got a lot of respect for him, and I like how open he's been through the years. I know there's some people out there who are just straight sports assholes, people who will complain, stick to sports when Jeremy will talk about other things and personal matters that's going on with his family. And that's always, I felt like that was a side of him to open up to people and made me care about him a hell of a lot more. And he's really good on the air. I mean, I really have enjoyed listening to him. Howard Simon was my first pick. Jeremy White being with him all those years made Howard better. And Howard would probably be the first person. In fact, he is the first person to tell you that Jeremy made Howard better. So I think it's a great pick. Who was the other one you just picked?
It was Adam Bonini was the other. But going back to White, like I said, I think he is that, like, there were things he's been wrong about. And he has at times admitted it, even though he doesn't admit that he said like a giraffe could be the GM of the Sabres after they got Eichel, which was wrong. But I won't hold that to him too much. But I think he's been there a while. He's going to be there a lot longer. Yeah, and I think he knows. He definitely knows about all this. Like he watches soccer. He knows a lot about soccer, etc. So I got him on here, and I do like hot takes, and like I don't think he has too many hot takes, but I like an opinion guy. Like give me some opinions. So yeah, he's on there. Sorry.
I got my last pick, and I literally want to flip a coin right now. We should have went with 5. 5 felt a lot easier. In hindsight,
I wanted the Mount Rushmore thing. Oh, I did. You didn't talk about Bonini. Make sure you kiss Bonini's ass. I know.
No, I'm not going to kiss.
Oh,
his
you're
ass.
not going to kiss. Okay, you're not. Okay, sorry.
I like Adam just fine. I respect him.
I'm giving you his shine.
I like the fact that he was, in a market where there's not a lot of people who are going to ask you really hard questions. He was usually the one who would ask the hardest questions at a press conference. I always respect that about him. What I don't like about him is he was on this podcast and maybe one of 2 guests I've ever had in the history of the show that did not retweet then not retweet his own episode. I put it out there. I sent him a DM. Adam Manini, this episode, interview, this and that. Didn't retweet that shit. I'm like, Adam, why are you not going to retweet an episode? You took an hour out of your life to talk to me for an episode. I put it out there.
Everyone,
you
Pat
don't give me the retweet
very easily.
Oh,
Retweet his stuff. Like, if you want to get on this list next year, Matt Perino RT Pat's tweets every week.
He does.
Okay?
Everyone does.
And he'll put you on here. He'll put
Adam,
you on here.
Adam, maybe it's a Channel 2 thing. Maybe it's a Channel 2 thing because Adam Beniti didn't retweet me, and Mary Alice Demler was on the show once, and she didn't retweet me either.
She big time you. She didn't care about you.
Yeah, she did. She's definitely big league.
Definitely big time you.
All right, this is my last pick, and it's a tough one.
Can I say one thing before you make this last pick? I'm impressed with your draft so far. I am not. I thought I was going to have loads of material to make fun of you for everything. And I can't, Howard, I thought was a bit of a reach. I would not have gone him that far.
Why are you analyzing my draft before it's even over? I still got another pick.
Okay, well, I'm just giving you some. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, buddy. I know.
My last pick is you are like a wrestler who's got to make sure he gets all of his shit in before we go home with the ending. Joe B's my pick. Joe B has been on every level exceptional. I thought he was great with WGR. I thought he was really good for Channel 7 when he was there, not for all that long. I think he's been a great writer for The Athletic, and more specifically, and there's lots of good, great Bills reporters out there, but I'll tell you this, his 7 observations, which a lot of people do now, but he was kind of like dropping that shit early on. That would be the first thing after a Bills game I would go look for is his 7 observations. And then during midweek, film study is all 22 weekly columns, showing some clips, breaking them down. He is an exceptional at that. He's also a really nice person. He's built for this business. He knew when he was 6 years old, this is what he was going to do with his life. He did not grow up a Bills fan. So he is definitely, absolutely not a fan. He doesn't have any real emotional attachment to the team that he covers.
Fair.
And he's a stat nerd, and I love stat nerds, man. And he's got spreadsheets for everything. I was blessed enough to see a couple of them before. And he's a popular dude, man. So for all those reasons, and I like him. So for all those reasons, Joe B is going to be my last pick. Real quick here, let me run down our 5, and then I just want to throw
6.
a couple quick names out, our 6, and then I'm going to throw out a couple names.
Oh yeah, he's got to pander to people who are going to call him and be yelling.
You do as well. I got this in front of me. It's literally scribbling here. So let me confirm. You confirm that I'm right. You took Larry Felser, Jim Kelly, Mike Robitaille, the Bulldog, Adam Benini, Jeremy White.
Yes.
I went with Howard Simon, Rick Azar, the coach Chuck Dickerson, Mark Gaughan, Joe B.
You're missing Tim Graham. Tim Graham, you had second.
Yeah, he was my second pick. Tim Graham as well. Like I said, I can't even read my own damn handwriting.
You're a disaster.
Okay. I do want everybody, again, I encourage everyone to kind of chime in with your comments. I'm going to tell you one name real quick that I strongly consider putting on this list, but don't want to deal with the backlash.
Oh, no.
Sully would have got consideration for my list. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Every game, after every football game for years and years and years and years, the first thing before the era of social media and everyone having a blog and a website, I went to the Buffalo News and would read that column the next morning for years. Win, lose, good, bad. I couldn't wait to read what Sully did. And he had a golf series trying to break 100 that I thought
God. Thank God I wasn't reading that then. Jesus.
I know. Well, I loved reading him. I loved reading him. I'm going to refrain from any other personal comments. What he said was inexcusable. He's paid the price, and I'm not going to have commentary on that. But as a talent for many years, not recent years, but many years before that, Sully was right up there with me as well.
He was always wrong a lot of times. And I told you my big rants in the beginning about, the whole like straw man arguer, bad faith argument. That dude always would say like, "Oh, this fan," like I always thought he thought the fans were the dumbest people on the planet, and like he had that horrible, he had that horrible column that with Rex Carr when Rex was like the typical fan, and I would be like, this guy sounds like a fucking idiot. Like, why you like he just just a constant straw man. I didn't care for it. I still love that the one time he always hated people. He always hated people that weren't quotable to him. Like he hated Stephon Gilmore, and he hated him. And I loved when like one of his last columns, or like it wasn't his last one, but like he said like the Bills should be like the Patriots and let Stephon Gilmore go, and then he signs with the Patriots. I was like, yeah, F you, like you were wrong, buddy.
Yep. Real quick,
yeah, he was there for a while.
We have to wrap up here, but give me.
Oh, sorry.
You got a name or two that like you gave strong consideration, and just a real quick take on why they it came close to making your team.
Not really, to be honest with you. I thought I had. I'm looking through my giant thing of doom. Gosh, I think I got everyone. I pretty much wow. I'm glad we didn't get to 7. Oh, you know who I was gonna do? No, it wouldn't have mattered because you did not want that. I would have had if we had broadcasters. I know like Jordan Wright would have been on there. I would have had Jim Lorenz on there because I thought he was awesome. He was X's and O guys. He was great, but like I couldn't because he's a broadcaster for the most part. But I thought about Shope maybe a little bit because he's been around for a while. But I went with Jeremy because he
and look, it's hard. It's hard, and here comes the pandering. But it's hard to limit it.
He's going to text all the people he didn't draft tonight, everyone, and say, I'm sorry.
No, that's not that bad. But there's a lot more than just 6 favorites. By the way, Ed Kilgore, I gave consideration to. I mean, 40 years here. I really enjoyed him. I grew up on TV. This again.
Same here. I grew up on
TV. So it was a big deal for the 6 and 11 o'clock sportscast growing up as a kid and as a younger adult. And seeing Rick Azar and Van Miller and Murph for a while, Ed Kilgore for all those years.
Stu Boyer was there forever.
I love Stu Boyer. He's actually on my list of people that I wanted to give honorable mention to just because he's such a nice human being. Again, one of my favorite people. Right. I know how you have some feelings about some of these people, but I like them. Sal Capaccio is one of my favorites. I've known him for a long time, and I love the fact.
Oh, I forgot about him. I didn't have him on my list.
say what you will about Sal, but I tell you, I remember he was doing what people used to call basement stuff back in the day, and he held on to a dream. And it might sound cheesy to some people out there, but he's living his dream. I think that's awesome, and he's a great fucking dude, and I can reach out to him anytime and stuff like that. So Sal's very high on.
You definitely did it more likable than I did. I did it like who I thought was good at their job.
Well, you said favorites multiple times.
No, I don't give a shit. I didn't do favorites. I don't care. Half these people I don't know. I've never met Jim Kelly. I don't know him. I don't even know where he's buried. Same with Larry Filzer.
It could be the combination of that person. It could be the work that they've done. I don't know who fucking Coach Dickerson is either on a personal level, but he was one of my favorites because I liked tuning into him. But anyway,
sorry.
So I said, and then there's plenty of others, lots of new people. 5 years from now, we do this show, I might have a different list. 10-year ultimately will matter.
Let me ask you this, and we'll go off into the sunset because I know you got things to do.
Yes,
will we ever have a worst media draft? Ever? Because that's what I'm waiting for.
If we did, you would dominate the show because you know me, man. I'm not going to say many negative things about people out there. Well, look, you know me. I want to give my shout outs. Joe Yurden, Matt Marino, all my boys out there that, some new people that I've just had on the show.
Cover One Squad, the Marino family. My God.
All right.
But I'll be honest, your draft was not as terrible. I thought it was going to be all the golf bro beats and it was going to be terrible. I'm going to be like, why? But it wasn't that bad, Pat. So props to you outside of, I don't know. Howard was a bit of a reach for me. That's why I was a little shocked by that, but
all right. So that was your shock. You taking Bulldog from me was my shock. And like I said, it's hard to just limit it to 6 when I've gotten to know as many people as I have. So it could have been more.
Yes,
but anyway,
gotten to know Mr. Popular over here. Everyone loves Pat.
I want to hear your comments.
You didn't talk about Tyler Dunn. You should have brought him out here.
Tyler, you know what?
I
Tyler
kiss his ass. Go ahead.
If we consider Tyler Dunn Buffalo sports media, he would have been in my draft. You kidding me? Tyler would have been he would have been one of my first 2 or 3 picks. We said Buffalo sports media. He's not really Buffalo sports media. He's NFL.
Well, he was
media.
here. He was here for
He was
3
here.
years.
He was here
like
for 2 tenures for a couple years each time. But he hasn't been part of the Buffalo sports media in a while now. So, and he's still active. So I considered him ineligible. Absolutely. He would have been on my list. But anyway, all right. Got to get out of here. Joe from Queens. Follow him if you want at Buffalo Wins.
Mute me.
I'll be back. I'll be back with a brand new show. Anthony Marino tomorrow. Talk to you then.